Hello, my name is Trydar. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build the Mines of Moria in Minecraft. Let's get started. Or rather, this is my version of the Mines of Moria. I've done my best to simplify the patterns and render them down into Minecraft into something that we can reasonably call the Mines of Moria. Typical Dwarven style architecture is what I call this. As you can see here, we of course start in the many-pillared hallway, which is what we would be running down here if we were fleeing away from hordes of goblins trying to eat us and everything. This is the largest of what I'm going to be attempting to show you because the Mines of Moria isn't really a one-shot build. What I'm going to be showing you is more a series of modules and patterns that you can use to replicate this to your own design. Yeah, like you can decide just how many pillars long or how many pillars wide you want your main hallway to be, or you can build several of these interconnected by corridors and stairs. And I'm going to be showing you, there's of course a lot of smaller rooms and everything as well. I really like the four patterns in here though. I think they came out rather nice. I went through many versions of this before I finally settled on one I liked. There are going to be a couple of pillar designs. There's going to be this pillar design here. There's going to be two more that you can use for different styles of hallways, as well as different types of roof up here as well. These are kind of three-dimensional, by the way. I've taken great pains to hide lighting just every place I can in here because, well, one of the things is in Minecraft with the lighting engine and everything, in order to have this place not festooned with torches everywhere, I've worked in glowstone in quite a lot of places. I've also paired that with the gold ore. So from a distance, it almost matches each other. It'll match if you're using the newer gold ore texture. But there are a couple of places down down in here as well. If you want to, you can put down extra torches in those little sections to help make more light and everything. So hopefully it won't be too dark, but you know it is going to be quite dark. Being an underground build, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Now, as you can see here, though, we do have, as I said, all the wall sections are going to be modular, like this here in the corner. That's going to be the main section. But over here, as you can see, we do have a little doorway leading out. If you want to, this can lead you to the bridge of Khazad-dûm or someplace else, wherever you want to go. We'd have smaller, well, I mean, they're not here, but I'll show you later. There are smaller side rooms you can put in these corridors. You can either wall this off or make a little side room. And you can have your corridor module continue off this way. And you can have it lead into another series of halls. So if I show you this from the outside, it being a dwarven type build, of course, there is nothing on the outside. All of we are going to be building for this is going to be only interiors. So even though these are quite large, maybe that might help you a little bit because you don't have to build an exterior to any of these. They're all interiors. And by a way of that, this is a slice out of what we just looked at over here. So you can see this just a little bit more clearly in profile. If you will look closely, you will notice that all the wall modules back there are, you know, you're just going to be, if you build one of those, you can just build as many as you want. Same goes for the floor patterning and the columns, and of course the ceiling modules up here as well. Once you get up past that point right there. Now that the potion wore off, I'll go back over here real quick. This will give us a good opportunity to see what the lighting will look like without any night vision potions. Well, like I said, I put a generous amount of glowstone here and there and try to hide as much lighting as possible. We can just get a very soft, gloomy light on the ceiling and the floor. And in some places, in the pillars, it wasn't really possible unless you just want to put more torches around them. That's about all you can do for those. But even though we're entirely enclosed in here with all the extra accents of glowstone that I put in the floor and everything, yeah, I think it's decently well lit. It's got an appropriate amount of light, I think, that you would expect to find in a dwarven city, you know, it being underground and everything. Of course, I assume they would have they would have better night vision as well. Down here, we haven't started the tutorial yet. I'm going to get to that. I have a lot of explanation of things to do before we get to where I show you to place blocks. So I hope you will bear with me, because it's going to be quite a big series, and I need to say all this stuff up front. So here, this is going to be the module pattern for the floors. So if we took this and we mirrored it over here, and then we took those two sections and mirrored them over here, in other words, we took this and rotated it around 3 more times, we would get the floor pattern that appears in here. And this section right back here, right there where I put the lever, this is where these columns over here would be sitting. And speaking of the columns, you remember I told you there's a couple of different sizes you can do if you want to make your hallway different heights. The main one that I'm going to be showing to you, I think the main one. Okay, so this one back here, this is the one we were just in. This one is going to have a total height of 65 blocks. So it should fit nicely even in older style worlds before the height increase, if you want to use that in those. But it does go up a full 65 blocks all the way from the bottom floor layer to the very top of the ceiling for that one. But these other ones are going to have different heights here. This column here is the one used right here. And on top of that, they pretty much all, these two large ones will have the same ceiling design here. So as you can see, we have this larger column design here. If you want one that's even taller than that one, you could use this design here. It's got a little bit more detailing on the, let me just show you how I did that. It's got more detailing on the bottom right here. Whereas if you will notice, this column here is actually the same as this column here. It's just had the bottom chopped off, and it's also had the top detailing chopped off as well. And for astute observers, you will notice that these columns are symmetrical, by the way. In other words, if you sliced it in the middle here, the bottom is going to be the mirrored design same as the top. And there is also a smaller column design here if you want perhaps a 3 by 3 column here for a small hall, or perhaps a large tall with a bunch of smaller pillars in it here. But I think these two are the same height here, so these would be suitable for a 65 block tall hallway. And this one, the measurement escapes me at the moment. I'll give you detailed measurements on these again when we come back to that later in the tutorial. I just want to show you that they exist for now. And when we start actually building it, that's when I'll give you all the numbers and everything. So you don't have to be writing that down just yet. If we look at this larger design hall, though, we can see it has the same floor pattern. But because it is taller, we do have a different, more stretched design back here for the wall modules. But the ceiling design is going to be the same for the large columns, which I think these are like 5 by 5 columns. Over here, though, perhaps if I shed a little light on this. Over here, though, this is going to be an example of a 3 by 3 hallway. You see here we've got the 3 by 3 small columns I just showed you. Well, this here is going to be an example of one of those. The floor design is a little bit different because the columns need to be spaced a little bit closer together. It also has a different and more simplified ceiling design up here as well. But as I think you can see, everything is still a modular pattern. So don't let this scare you too much, because all this is really made up of some simple elements. It's made up of a repeating floor pattern, a repeating column pattern, a repeating wall design pattern. Wherever your columns hit the wall, you need a pattern for that. And it's also made up of a ceiling module up here as well. The ceiling module starts up here, right here where the column's in. It also includes the characteristic dwarven archway and the ceiling modules themselves. So if we go down here, you can see we've got a module here, then one right beside it, then beside that, and so on and so forth for just as many of these columns and repeating patterns as you feel like building. You can make these hallways to any size that you want. In other words, you could make very small hallways that perhaps only have 4 pillars in them in the middle. You could make a really long hallway that's just got a bunch of pillars on either side, or you can make just really gargantuan hallways with pillars absolutely everywhere. And I imagine that you will want to do that with all these different patterns over time. And of course, you can link these hallways together, like I showed you the corridors. If we put a corridor down there, we can have it lead off to another large hallway of a different design over here. And we can also do the same if we want to have a corridor coming off of this somewhere in the wall. We can have it lead over to another design like this here. So you can use all the designs that you want to, just like so, as long as you take the trouble when you're designing this to make sure that they're going to link up with the corridor modules. Because these little corridors I showed you here, these are modules also. The entire thing for this is just a large series of modules. Here's some examples of the modules for the rooms. I've got a small room, a slightly larger but still small room, 2 rooms here, and these over here are going to be corridors of different designs. You can have a large corridor, well, no, wait, you can have a small corridor design here, just like so. So if we walk down this here, we can see it's just a repeating pattern here. You don't have to have doorways in every one. Indeed, the modules are not big enough for you to do that. You have to go like every other one. But for this here, you would just block this off with 9 more blocks of obsidian, I think, or blackstone or whatever, depending on how you want to have your corridor designs configured. Over here, this is an example of a large corridor. So something more spacious. This would be like a dwarven equivalent of a highway, with side rooms off over here. And you would put these on the ends of the hallways over here. This hallway that we walked out of over here, or maybe it was that one, getting a little lost. So it was this hallway over here that we walked out of. You can see that floor design down there at the bottom. Well, it's the same one over here. You would just build one of those here, then here, and here, and here, and here, for however long you wanted until you got all the way to wherever you wanted to put your other hallway. Now, there are some examples of some small rooms, so I'll just give you a peek of those. I'm still in the explanation phase. We're not building anything quite yet, so it's a lot of work. So we have some small rooms here of a dwarven design. Quite a nice design, I think. But we can take that room as a module and extend it out. Just sort of stretch it out in the middle here. Just repeating the patterns along the wall and the floor and everything to get ourselves a different sized room. So in other words, we can take our small room and we can just, it's sort of like copy and paste until we want to get a larger room. So these little rooms I'm showing you here are, to an extent, modular in some sense. They're module lengthwise. So here we have another design of a larger, more grand dwarven room. You could have smaller rooms on the edges of these rooms if you want to. But this would be like the main room of a nice sized dwarven house, or rather, I guess, a dwarven hall. And here we have a slightly shorter version of that same thing. All right. So, let's see. Over here is where I've sliced up all these little rooms that we'll be taking a look at whenever we get to those. That's probably towards the end of the tutorial series. Because I think you're going to want to build, when you're doing these, you really should build, like if you want to build a really large hall of this design over here. Takes a little while to fly around. Of this design over here, I would suggest that this be the core of your dwarven city. And you might want to just, build a really big hall, just one of these, just as much as you want to. And from there, you can start planning off your corridors. And afterwards, I would suggest you build as many corridor modules as you want and try and think about how many side rooms you want to have with your corridors along the way and wherever they're going to lead off to your other size hallways, presuming you want to have more than one large dwarven hallway. There are also, I think, somewhere around here, you can also use these corridors as an intersection. I've only got them laid out as a line here, but if you want to just, if you want to knock out this wall here, you can see this archway here is going to be the same as this design here. So what you can do is you can make this as a T intersection. Right here, you can have it go this way. You can make it, if you want to fill in this wall over here, though, you can make it just an L-shaped intersection, or you can also make it a cross-shaped intersection, depending on how many of those extra walls you want to knock out, and then build another corridor set going off this way or over that way. That was a lot of explanation. I hope that made sense. In other words, you can use these modules to build any type of corridor configuration you want to for your city. Over here, now to get down into your city, I have designed something a little bit nicer than perhaps a water elevator or a ladder or something. We have, of course, our dwarven staircase. So if you can imagine up here would be your entrance to your dwarven city. We might talk about that in a future video, but if you want to have like a facade entrance to your dwarven city, or if you just want to have this hole sticking out the side of a mountain, you can do that. And that would be your entrance to your city. Up here, if you want to, you could have a little, you could have a few little rooms up here, because as you might notice, right here, this entrance module is just one of these large corridor modules over here. It's the same modules we used over there. So you would start at the surface with building one module. In fact, this might be where you want to start before you build your hall, although you could reverse engineer the entrance up from that. But if you have a particular mountain design you already have, you would want to start with one module here for the corridor entrance. And then, as you can see, we have a series of more, yet even more modules. If I just back out here, maybe it's a little more clear. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of these little modules here. I'll show it to you in more detail later. It's that section down there. And these here, they do have staircases built down the middle if all you want is a staircase, but they also feature powered rails. So if you want to have various rails, you can have them on either side. Now this one is split down the middle, just right down the middle, so I can show it to you in profile. There is another complete one over here, which might make more sense if I show this to you. I'm going to show this one to you first. So if we have our entrance here to our mine, and we go over here, we can see we have a staircase just straight down, but on either side we have a total of 4 minecart power rails that we can use for quick access up and down in our dwarven city, because dwarves mine a lot, so they would want to have a lot of rail networks going all the way through. And of course, at the bottom, at your desired ending point, by adding more or less of these modules here, you can make this suitable to the depth or the height of your mountain that you want to go down. So all the way down here on the bottom end of this, you would build another corridor module. Just like the module we built for the entrance, you would build another module down here. And from here, you could use this to either have a corridor going off in this direction, or a corridor going off in that direction over here, or wherever you want to. Or you could have on the other side of this module here, you could have that end directly with one of the large pillared hallways and just go straight down into that, if that's how you want to lay out your city. Or you could have a long corridor with a couple of rooms, and then have your large pillared hallway open up somewhere over here. Maybe it'd be just a little bit more dramatic that way. In one of my Norras series videos, I showed some of this stuff. I laid it out a little bit more complicated than that. I wanted to have like a sort of little rat's nest of corridors going off in all sorts of directions, and you have to know where you're going, or you will get hopelessly lost. But eventually, when you do stumble into the one of the large pillared hallways, because you've been just down in these smaller corridors, it can be quite dramatic when you want to lay it out that way. But again, this is one of the things that you might want to start, you might want to get like a, pencil and paper and start, making some notes and some designs about how you might want to take these modules I'm going to be showing you here in this series and lay them out in a type of dwarven city design that you might prefer. You might have very different ideas about how to lay these out than I do. Now, and over here, we'll just take one little quick look. Here's one of these little modules here. This is one of these. It's just split right down the middle. They're symmetrical right down this line here. So you just would build the same thing on either side right there. All right, so over here, before we get too far away from them, I have a couple of different large halls that I wanted to show you that you can use. Where was it? It's one of these. So over here, this is where I talked about. I don't remember if I made a door to this or not. I don't think I did. We'll just break our way in. So I think probably around here. So right here, you could have a smaller hallway design here. This one just features 6 of the 3x3 pillars. It's still quite a very large hallway, though. If you just want to, this it's kind of like the economy size dwarven hallway. Still quite large, though. But if you want to, you can make them any size according to the modules I showed you. I think this one back here is just an example of a 4-pillared hallway. And they're so large they take a while to get around. I think looking at the size of this, that's going to be a 4-pillared hallway in there. And then over this way, I wanted to show you some different designs you can do with the large ones. If I can get all the way over there, I can see it's a large design from this here. So this would be an example of quite a narrow type of hallway here. And you can use, so let's land here. So like I mentioned earlier, if you just want to have one row of columns just going straight down the middle, this is what that would look like. Still quite large. But back over here, I think this is going to be an example of a small one. I think there might only be 4. Yeah. So this is if you want to use the large design here, with just this is the large design with the medium height columns. They don't have the extra bit on the top and the bottom I remarked on earlier. You would just have 4 columns here for this design. But as I said, you will have to figure out exactly how you want to lay out the modules so you can make a design of hallway that you want to have for yourself. I'm going to be showing you a number of examples. I think this first example over here that goes all the way off in that direction, this is going to be that one over there. This is going to be the 5x5 columns, but without the top and bottom columns on those. I will have sliced up in here examples of the other ones. I've only got this one at the moment. I still need to do a little work on the world here. This back here we'll take a look at is going to be an example of all the modules you will need to slice up for a 3x3 hallway. And this example right here, this slice here is just like a quarter of it. And over here, if we build another quarter and mirror it right there, and then we put them together, this is how the modules fit together. So you would be able to use these to design any sized hallway that you feel like building. But all of that is going to be in the next parts. For this part of the video, for this first part, it's kind of a long, I know it's a really long introduction, but as you can see here, there are a lot of Dwarven City modules, and I didn't want to give you just one pillared hallway and call that good enough, because even though that's what I'm going to do first, if that's all you want, in the subsequent parts of this series, I'm going to be expanding out and showing you all the sizes of the halls, all the rooms, all the corridors, and then all of the stairs and everything that you're going to need if you want to make a more complete Dwarven city design to fit together. I think the last thing we will be closing out with today is going to be the materials list. So for this, you'll be needing a bit of glowstone, a decent amount of gold ore, quite a bit of obsidian or black stone. You can use black stone instead of the obsidian. It'll look just as good. Polished black stone, I think, would be my favorite on that. A whole lot of red of the brick, obviously, and all of the deep slate. Yes, all of it. You are going to need just oodles and oodles of these 5 materials. That's why there aren't any numbers on them, because remember, I've been saying everything is modular. So because I don't know how many of these modules you are going to end up building, I can't give you exact numbers for anything. Other than you're going to need just a whole lot of all these materials, just as much as you want together. But since you may need to dig out a absolutely enormous hole to fit in the hallway and all the corridors and everything, I don't think you're going to have too much trouble coming up with these materials. You should just have them in your chest already from doing all the clearing out work for the city and everything going forward. But I hope you are excited for the Mines of Moria Dwarven tutorial series, and I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.